And until basically a month ago, no one had figured out how to implant a mitral valve non-surgically. Yeah, in February of this year, a company called Neovasc from Canada announced that they'd implanted two mitral valves, prosthetic mitral valves without heart surgery. In full disclosure, I'm on the board of Neovasc and I do have equity in the company. So I know a little bit about it. I can't disclose confidential information, but I can tell you what the news report says. And basically, they treated two patients in Canada who were not eligible for valve replacement. The way it was done was a transapical approach. So the surgeons do a small thoracotomy. They open up the ventricle, and then they put the valve in. And both of the procedures were reported to take less than 20 minutes, and both of the patients are doing very well. So this is really now the dawn of a new age of mitral valve replacement, non-surgical mitral valve replacement. People have been trying for almost 10 years to figure out how to approach the mitral valve. There are devices like the Abbott Everest device that is causing the clip, the mitral clip, and there are other coronary sinus devices that people are trying. But actually replacing the mitral valve has proven to be incredibly difficult. At the same time that Neovasc announced this, Edwards Life Sciences also announced that they'd done their first human implants in London, and apparently those were successful as well. We're going to be hearing a lot more about that probably at the ACC and at PCR, but I think that this is huge because the mitral valve space is 3 times larger than the TAVR space. There are many more patients with mitral regurgitation than with severe aortic stenosis, and those patients are very, very undertreated with a lot of morbidity and with a high 5-year mortality rate. So I think that the market size is much, much larger, but the whole procedure has been very challenging. Well, originally the devices to treat mitral regurgitation involved putting devices in the coronary sinus to try to do a non-surgical annuloplasty. So if they put devices in the coronary sinus and try to constrict them, they would decrease in size. And there have been 3 or 4 of them that have been attempted. They've been very unsuccessful, and I think most people think that that approach is going to not pan out in the long term. Others are trying to put surgical clips in the annulus to do annuloplasty, and there's 2 or 3 companies that are actually trying to figure out a way to do this non-surgically. Again, that's very difficult. With advances in imaging with 3D echo, you can actually see exactly where you're putting those sutures, so that's going to be a little bit better. And then Abbott has their device, which is a clip, which basically clips the mitral valve together in a bow and produces a non-surgical alveoli stitch. That device has proven to be reasonably effective. It is now FDA approved, is being sold in Europe, is being sold in the United States. The procedure, as you suggested, is difficult to do because you have to do a septal puncture, but not only a transseptal puncture in exactly the right position in the superior posterior part of the intraatrial septum. So the degree of precision you require from that is very, very large, and then you have to kind of clip the valve as it's moving in space, and that takes a lot of operator time and experience. So there is going to be a hurdle for adoption for that. It's not something that any interventional cardiologist can do, and it's certainly far, far harder than putting in a transcatheter aortic valve. So all of these things are kind of struggling, and I honestly think that at the end of the day, the solution is just going to be to replace the valve. And whoever can figure out a way of doing it routinely and successfully, either from the transapical or the transeptal approach, I think is going to win out. It's actually, the risk of fluoroscopy, actually, interestingly, is not that great because you're not using fluoroscopy very much. There's been a revolution in terms of imaging guidance, and we're actually now using transesophageal echo and 3D echo much more commonly. So we're actually looking at the echo screen as we're manipulating the catheters. So fluoro imaging is really not that frequently used. Having said that, it still is a very long procedure because you have to turn the catheter a little bit, wait for the echo image to verify if you placed it right, turn it a different way back and forth. and all of those manipulations take a lot of time. So for the mitral clip, you know, the skilled operators have gotten the procedure down to under an hour, but these things can take 3 and 4 hours at the start.